Everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am here with the one and only Lynn Easton, and I am very excited about it. I see many people filtering in, so I'm going to give it just a hot second.
And I was saying, Nora, that wherever you are is absolutely fantastic. Where are you today?
Well, thanks. I'm in my brand new house in right south of Portland, and I have no furniture in it yet, so it's
Which
very
is why you have a very
clean.
green backyard.
Yes.
We were just in Healdsburg this weekend and
Oh.
at the new Montage, and everything looks so good with all that rain that I'm sorry that a lot of people had to pay the price for. But the properties look absolutely amazing. So we
Oh my
were
gosh.
happy for all that greenery. You get that on a regular basis, but
I love it. And you're in Charleston, right?
in Charleston today, it's warm because we're really fully in summer. So that's what's happening here.
Good.
The week before that, we were in East Hampton. So we've done a little bit of a little route there.
Oh my gosh. Well, you were in the US, so that makes it easier, right?
That is exactly right. Yes.
Well, thanks everyone again for joining us. We are here in our Money Talk series with Lynn Easton. So real quick, I want everyone to pick up their phone and follow us at Rock, Paper, Coin and Easton Events, so you can follow along both of our adventures. But before we dive in, I just want to give you a brief overview of Lynn and her incredible career. If you haven't heard of her, you have been living under a rock somewhere, but Lynn has been running Easton Events for almost 30 years. She is a planner and designer, and before that was a TV producer, which I think is so interesting. She moved to Charlottesville and was asked to plan her friend's wedding, and the rest is history. So Lynn and her team, they plan, is it 8 events every year? 8 events. They're all destination, and they're very high touch, complex, detailed weddings, many times in remote locations. And she has a team of 6 full-time people, and then also works with a handful of specialized professionals on her travel team. And then of course, at whatever location she is at. So thanks again for being with us, Lynn. I know many of us are excited to hear everything you have to share. And of course, you are known for your incredible events that are jaw-dropping, but I don't know that everyone knows that you manage and are part of a team of more than just Easton Events. So can you walk us through your different businesses and talk about how they play into each other and kind of what inspired them?
Happily. So about 14 years ago, I was having a drink with my husband, and I turned to him. I was living in Charlottesville, Virginia, home of UVA, go Who's. And I turned to him and I said, "This is so crazy. I have so much demand for weddings, but we have literally nowhere luxury to put them." And he was like, "Really? That's so interesting." There was one country club, and really there wasn't anything else than that. And he said, "That's really interesting." And he'd been talking about wanting to start a winery, which was a really crazy thing to want to do. It's like really. And he said, "Well, what do you think we could compare? We could put these two ideas together." And we kind of figured out a way to do that, which was amazing. And Pippin Hill, which is our winery and our event venue, was born. So that was probably about 11 years ago. I talk a lot about, I'm doing a digital course, and in my digital course, I talk a lot about what you need to do to be successful. And one of those things is you have to be able to risk, and not all times of your life are you able to risk. But my kids were, we're like 12, but we put our house on the line. We literally put our house up for collateral in order to build Pippin Hill. So that was our first thing. And interesting that, again, you're my business partner so that's called Eastern Porter Group. And, that's uncharted territory, how that's going to work out. Well, it worked out really well. That's a good thing. And Pippin Hill was wildly successful, which was really fabulous. So we came down to Charleston to look for. We were trying to do something similar to Pippin Hill in Charleston, and we came in and I will never forget the day. My real estate agent said, "I know you're looking for property, but can I just take you by this little B&B, bread and breakfast. And part of the story is that my husband was worked at Orient Express hotels for a lot of years. So he's a hotel guy. And we were like, we don't want to look at a hotel. Anyway, she convinced us. We walked into this little hotel and we bought it. And that's Zero George, which has become a little darling of the media a little bit because, the location. We're in Charleston. Yeah. It's hot. It's a wonderful property. And then we spun it off into Zero Restaurant. And then we bought another venue, and then we bought another market. And now we're opening another Italian restaurant. So we're about 6 things altogether. And my job is, so Easton Events is really my baby. And that's where I spend probably 70% of my time. And the other 30% is really on the creative of the other properties. So I think an interesting question is, how do these all relate? I mean, I get to treat, which I love, like Zero George is like an event, the hotel, but it doesn't get ripped down in 6 hours. So that's really fun. So we've really been able to sort of thread these ideas. We have in every property, there are these kind of candles that we've had handmade in Mexico, and they're in every property. So we have these lovely little threads. I do think you'd walk into any of our properties and go, I wonder if this is Easton Events. That's what I'm hoping for. So that's how I love it. Those are the hats I wear.
I love it. Okay. So I have to ask, how did you meet your husband?
Love that story. Love that question. I love the story. I love the answer. So I was working in Charlottesville, again, super regionally. And he had just bought this hotel called Keswick Hall for Orient Express. And I was doing a charity event for a local charity. And his event was the next night. And he saw me and came up, and I basically was like, talk to the hand. I am very busy right now. Do you not see I have an event? And he was like, no. And I'm like, I'm really busy. And he said, is there anything I can do for you? And at that point, there was a silent auction. I had done this beautiful event, and there was a silent auction, and the silent auction had like black ribbons and black pens. And I kind of turned to him and I said, well, if you can make some beautiful green grosgrain materialize, I'd be really happy. So I can replace the black ribbons. So the guy is so smart. He sends one of his people into town. He comes back with a basket, like literally like this big, full of every color, blue, green, cream, grosgrain ribbon available in Charlottesville. And that's the end of that story. He had me at grosgrain ribbon.
At grosgrain. I hope you had some at your own wedding.
I love it. Yep, that's it.
Oh my gosh, so good. Okay, so arguably a lot of your success has come from the lengths that you've gone to ensure that your businesses are impeccably branded. So how important is branding to your business? And if you could give everyone a sense as to how branding shows up in your business.
So, I think this is again, I talk a lot about this in the course, about how important branding is if you come from a small market. Because it's different if you come out of Chicago or Boston or Los Angeles or New York, where you as an event planner, you have so much opportunity for success. But when you come out of a little town like Charlottesville, how do you make your way onto the national market? And I contend one of the ways that you do that is that you have to have a strong brand, a brand that's so strong and so recognizable that somebody who's sitting in Florida goes, gosh, I just love the feel of their weddings. There's nobody in the Florida market who's doing that. I'm going to pay to have them come all the way down and do our wedding, our daughter or son's wedding in Florida. So I think that branding for us is at the heart of our success. And how does it show up? It shows up everywhere. It shows up in, I love to think a lot of people know that we're famous for Easton Blue. We have a PMS color that is like our absolute, that it goes on our website, it goes on our, it goes in our Insta. It just is a color that we keep branding with. And why is that? Because those kind of things trigger things in people's mind and create the relationship between one and the other. And I think we have a very consistent brand of voice. This whole concept of, although it was very funny the other day, somebody interviewed me and said, so what do you think about this new trend of quiet luxury? And I said, well, I've been doing this trend for 30 years, so it's working pretty well for me. But we have always had, I like to refer to it, we are expensively understated. Because understated does not mean inexpensive. It just means that you are, luxury comes in layers. So I think we have built a brand based on quiet, understated luxury that is built on really fantastic tabletops. And the wow comes from walking in and feeling this sense of just sublime, but nothing that like blings you in the face. So whether that's in, I mean, we're so crazy, as I sit here with my little pink shirt, about our branding. You know, we have travel decks that we send to our travel team. So we not only do we know what we're wearing to the events, but we know what our color palette is for setup days. So and that's because when we interact with the people that are there, we want them to know that we are a brand, that we are Easton Events, and it is all very cohesive. So we use really all of these opportunities to subliminally let people know that that we are a brand, and that brand is very consistent.
What would be a typical setup uniform for your team?
So it depends where we're going. If we're going to the Caribbean, then it's going to be, you know, probably on setup days, and we probably would have like little linen dresses. The boys are wearing something else. But for those, you know, in the Caribbean, we're probably doing linen. But when we're in, you know, out west, for example, it's just that Tuesday will be, you know, blue and white on the bottom, you know, which means basically white jeans, and we're not afraid to wear white jeans because we're not picking up a whole lot of stuff, because we're people to help us with that kind of stuff.
Love it.
And then the next day will be, you know, we're going to go into all our neutrals and our tan. So it's not very complicated, but it just, like, no one's going to show up at so we're very, and it's part of branding. Like, no one's, as much as our team probably would love to wear athleisure, no one's showing up and working in athleisure at Easton Events. So, but this is so fun. This year, what's it called? Radley, our after party outfits are called what? Ripley Raider. So this is Lauren to my left. She helps me with everything. So one of the things that I thought was hard for us is that everybody dresses in these lovely little dresses typically. Time you get to 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, or once you, the very hardcore dancing, everybody is just so tired and their feet hurt. So now we bought these great outfits, and everybody changes into, it is sort of like glamorous. I don't know, it's not really athleisure, but it's just new comfortable clothing. So we've even thought that through, right? So you obviously have your beautiful outfit that you're wearing during the day, but I also want the team, I'm really, one of my big mantras and I would love everyone to embrace this in the industry, is that your team and your vendor partners are the most important part of your event, because with their success comes your success. And I will fight bitterly and emphatically for my band tent to be the best that it can be, whether it's cooled or heated or good food, just treating your vendor partners and your team with the best care, is something that hasn't really been done in our industry. I'm not sure why. We sort of feel like we have gotten into the second class citizen thing, and I am here to dispel that.
I love that so much, and I couldn't agree more with you. So adding on to that, your events that your team puts on, they're all unique and dependent of the client, of course, but there's also that certain aesthetic that plays out. So kind of building upon the Easton blue and, your typical style. Is there an ideal Lynn Easton couple, and who are they, and what does it mean when it comes to design and execution, and how is that different from like other planners at your level?
I kind of like that question a lot. So first of all, this typical Easton client is kind and lovely, because we interview for kind and lovely. So I would, anyone who's a planner out there listening to this, I would say it is part of our responsibility to not only be hired, but also to be qualifying. And we do a really good job at qualifying. I would say we're, 95% get it right. And the other day I was listening to a daughter who wasn't being very nice to her mom, and her mom's giving her $1 million wedding, and I literally did my, and I go like this, and that was not the right. I mean, Dawson's selling with me, she's like, and let's wrap up. Because, so, and I'm very, I try not to. I'm not proud of so many things, but I am really proud of the fact that I think if you asked a lot of our top vendor partners who in the industry has the nicest clients, we're going to be right up there as having the nicest clients, because it's really important to us. We have the advantage, we're only taking 8, so we can turn down a lot of clients, or we can say that they're not the right fit. So Easton clients are going to be kind. They really also tend to be very focused on the whole event and really just their guests and the experience. They're a little, I mean, in some places, I think brides can be a little bit, or couples can be a little wound up in the details of all the decor, or God, I'm going to get myself in so much trouble, or changes, or that kind of.
Oh no. Oh, I thought I was the one that froze, but maybe not. Oh no. Okay, well, we're going to pause on that. Shoot, I wanted to hear what she was going to say, but hopefully she will pop right back on. If anyone has questions, we have a running list going, so please do share those, and we will be sure to ask Lynn until she comes back. Oh, yes, Deanne. Hopefully she comes back. I agree. Until she comes back, everyone stop what you're doing and clean your camera on your computer. You will thank me at your next meeting. You'll be all spick and span and clean. So, gosh, I might just give you a little monologue until she comes back on. Oh, good question, Anya. We'll ask about her team, how big it is. Somebody asked how they could be her, so we'll ask that. But for those of you that haven't heard yet, Lynn has a new course that she is launching. And actually tomorrow, I believe, is the first day that you can register. So it's kicking off tomorrow. It sounds incredible. She is giving you her whole kind of toolbox of how she does things and what her team does, how they do it. Kind of different documents and things like that. And I believe there's kind of some one-on-one time with Lynn as well. So definitely look into it. It is an investment that I think is a very wise one, especially for those of you that are have been around, whether you're new or you've been around for several years. There's no one that can teach you how to level up like Lynn and her team. So it sounds like an incredible opportunity. Siri, have we heard from Lynn? Is she trying to hop back on?
I've not heard from her yet, but I'll ping her separately too to see.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, well, keep those questions going. There's some really good ones. How does she handle social media? I'm going to try to answer some of these until she comes back on, but I do know she has an incredible social media manager, Samantha Roberts. Gosh, I hope I have her last name right, but she, that's her job for Easton Events is to do all her social media. So if you follow Easton Events, if you don't, you absolutely should. The social media is stunning, but like Lynn said, it's very on brand. It's like immaculate. It's everything that's shared is shared with purpose. And I think Sam does a really, really great job with that. So, oh, she's back. Hi.
We lost our internet. It's like, what? I was calling in. I apologize. What did I miss?
Oh, well, I was just, telling everyone about what you do in your course and all the
Thank you.
things.
Well, sorry.
So, no,
I was
no
being
worries.
so pithy, and you're like sitting there going, like, well, I really, anyway, apologies.
No, I thought I was the one that was frozen at
I know.
first, so not to worry. Oh, goodness. Okay, well, until she gets back on, let's talk about a couple RPC things. So if you are new to learning about RPC, welcome. We'd love to share more. We are a software platform created specifically for the wedding and event industry. We specialize in proposals, contracts, invoices, shared documents, basically the entire onboarding process for your clients is elevated. It's made easy for them. It's made easy for you. We have the lowest processing fee in the industry. It's only 2.5%. So it's an instant savings for anyone that wants to give us a try. Another piece of that, just like Easton Events service and going above and beyond is so important. We offer free white glove onboarding. So anyone that wants to hop on Rock Paper Coin, give us a try. We will set up your entire account. We will transfer any documentation over from another platform you might be on, set up templates for you, and do a whole one-on-one training all completely for free. So our goal is to really elevate the industry as much as we can. And part of that is through the onboarding process. Hi, you're back.
I'm here. Well, I think I'm going to have to stick. I'm trying to get it into video on my phone, but I am here on audio for the moment, and we'll just try to load in through a phone. But what questions were you answering for me?
Well, I was sharing with everybody about your course. Can you tell us a little bit about the course that's coming out?
Absolutely. So it's super exciting for us. We are, look, we're joining. Hold on, you have to get off over here. Go ahead and join. We'll get a little glitch. Take it off. Here we go. Hold on 1 second.
Hi.
There we go. So our
Perfect.
digital course is, so we have, it's been a massive, honestly, it's been a massive effort, which has been so fun. We did, there are 7 modules to the course, and they are going to drop one, we'll drop one module a week. And every week we do a 90-minute live Zoom, and we have everyone together, and we're going to go through what happened in the course. There are, I guess, 40 different videos, and we're going to go through that. The premise of the course is how to take your business from ultra luxury, from luxury to ultra luxury. And it's not for everybody. So a lot of people have said, I'm starting out in the business. Does it make sense for me to take your course? And I say, no, it really is somebody who's already in the luxury space, who just is struggling to make that jump. And one of the things that's so interesting is that for those of us who have made that, and everybody who's in the ultra luxury space has had that transition, and it's a tough transition, and it can feel lonely. So part of this is just getting, planners together who are all making that, that transition from luxury to ultra luxury, all in the same space, really drilling down to who is the ultra luxury consumer? What are they looking for? What are the practices that they expect? And for us, we are giving away, as part of the course, everything, every checklist, every template. Like, we have this very lovely portal. We just call it our client portal, where everything that the client needs to use during the course of their working with us is in one place. And we
made a template of that portal, and that portal is going to be able to, we're going to give that as part of the course, and then the planner can take it and customize it to their own specs and their own color and their own everything, and every checklist and all, even like things like the way we respond to emails to clients that we don't think are a fit. So the kit and caboodle we're including. We've got some other fun things, like we're doing an actual sales call. So Dawson and I recorded a sales call with someone. So the planners can actually watch us, how we move through a call, when we bring up how much we charge, how to get into that sensitive subject of budget. And just a lot of, it's so interesting because a lot of planners think that when you get to the ultra luxury point, like that clients don't care about money, but they really do care about money. And they also are very worried they're getting taken advantage of. So there's a whole strategy about how to deal with that. And then we just go into, branding. And so obviously branding, selling, all the things that we have with travel. So it's going to be a very fun 7 weeks. And the course drops on Thursday, and enrollment closes tomorrow night at midnight. So we've had amazing response for the course, and I cannot wait to dive in on Friday with our first Zoom with all the attendees.
It sounds like such an incredible opportunity. I'm so excited that you're offering this. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Can I ask, I'd love for you to explain to those that are not aware the difference between like lovely versus luxury versus ultra luxury, and kind of what the differences are between those different groupings.
So they anecdotally, and no one's really the arbiter of this, but they say that that ultra luxury starts at 500,000. The tricky thing is ultra luxury in a lot of ways, I think, starts at $1 million if there's a tent involved, because the tenting sucks up so much money and kind of does your event no good, right? I mean, you know what I mean? It's like if you could take those, that $100,000 or $200,000 or way much more, because sometimes we spend ungodly amounts on our tent, that it can be $1 million. So that's, from a monetary point of view, that's, I think, where it is. From how I feel about it, and we do talk a lot about this in this course, it's all of the things that are almost intangible, almost unseeable that happen at an ultra luxury wedding. Like every single, when you walk in a room, you will never see a trash can uncovered. You will never see bottles in the, all of our bars, there were no liquor bottles on the top. The shelves of the bars all have some kind of cloth so that everything is hidden at the start. I mean, it can come off later when the party is rocking and rolling to make it easy for the bartenders. But when you walk into an Easton tent, you will not see anything that is out of place. I mean, we are really, every tablecloth, and that every chair will be straightened with a string leveler. I mean, every speaker will be covered in a way that is aesthetically pleasing. So it's less about the showy part. I mean, although that, beautiful florals is important and a beautiful backdrop, but it's also about if you think about it, maybe the way you would get dressed, is sometimes like you're in a hurry and like you put your hair up in a pony and you put your sweatshirt on and you run out, or you can really take a lot of time and do your makeup absolutely beautifully and have that hair just be like whatever. And that is what ultra luxury is. It's that final refinement of an event, which is almost unseeable, but not really.
I love that so much. What a great description. Okay, so you have these clients that you mentioned, many of them are super private, and there are often different decision makers in the group, depending on the client and, their families. At what point do you talk to them about budget, and how do you qualify them before even getting to that point?
So, we do actually ask, and it's a little, I don't know, to be very frank, I don't know that most of my peers are probably not asking this question on the entry level on the inquiry form, but we ask what your ideal target investment on your wedding day is. And it's because we get just, because we're not in New York and we're not in Los Angeles, we do get a lot of inquiry that is not a fit for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to think it behooves not only us, but I think it's so important that every couple that we talk to, that if they have less money than is a fit for us, that we are as kind and as gentle and as lovely as can be. And I mean that so much from the bottom of my heart. I think that's so important. And so when we ask that question and they'll say, I want to go, I'd love to do a wedding in Lake Como. And I have 200 people and I have $300,000. And I'd love to set up a call. Because we've asked that question, I can say, you know what? Your budget is fabulous. This is amazing. $300,000 will go such a long way in Europe. But the reality is our travel costs would eat up, just our whole team jumping across the pond will eat up more money than I think would be, reasonable. And my good girlfriend advice is that you work with, and I'll say, Lake Como weddings, and I'll give them somebody to talk to. So we try to leave every inquiry in a very positive way. So, to answer your question, we are asking that question on the intake form, which is unusual, as I said, with my peers.
Mm-hmm.
It works for us. So then what we do find is that so interesting. The ultra luxury clients tend to not fill out that part of it. They just leave it blank. And so then that's interesting. That's a kind of cue to us. Okay, sorry. So then we start the conversation. So we're probably 15 minutes into the call. I mean, and I hope everybody's doing this, we have an intake form that gets, first and last name, their address. So we can do with a little Google sweep a pretty quick analysis of who somebody is. And obviously if they're very wealthy, we, which we are lucky enough to have lots of clients like that, we might not bring up the budget in the first call, but that probably doesn't happen very often. So typically within about 15 minutes of the call, we want to know whether they're going to be the right fit for us. So we're going to say to them, and a lot of times they haven't figured out an easy way to do that is to say, your budget is such a huge driver on where you're ultimately going to wind up. Have you all collectively decided what your target, and that's what I say, what your target investment for your wedding day, and those are all keywords because your target, your investment, and your wedding day doesn't mean the whole weekend. And they'll say, sometimes they'll say, well, they'll give us the answer, and then we'll say, well, whether, it's like, they say it's, $1.5 million, we're like, that's wonderful because obviously you've been educated by somebody to understand what the cost of doing a wedding in Lake Como are. Sometimes they'll be, well, we don't know. And then we right then and there say, well, would it be helpful if we kind of walked you through those numbers then a little bit? And they'll say, yes. So we're qualifying really before we do a complete when we sell, which is, as I said, is in the course, you can see exactly how we sell, what we show people, because we go through our portal, we go through our decks, we go through our timelines to show people what we have. And we don't want to waste their time and frankly, our time. And I think the other thing is it's just really awkward. I think everyone should think about it this way. If you spend an hour on a call with someone and that by that point they, you love them and they love you. And then you say, so what's your target budget? And they say, I have $50,000. That's just terrible. It's awful for them. It's so embarrassing. It's so awkward. So I just think let's all be grown up. Just like you walk into Chanel and you can see it's $6,000, the jacket. It's right there. Why are we dancing around it? So I think you have to be polite and lovely, but the reality is we all attach values to things that we're purchasing, and I don't think we need to dance around it. So
right.
It happens really fast, whether we qualify. And we never I don't think we've ever gone to contract with anyone without really knowing what their budget is, even if they are worth billions of dollars,
Mhm.
because sometimes they still don't have a realistic expectation of what it's going to cost to do a wedding on a cliffside in Jackson Hole. So if they want to go up 13,000 feet and have people come up by yaks, it's not going to happen for $1 million. So we have to have that conversation. So we basically do not even go to contract without knowing what the client's expectation is in terms of their budget.
Gotcha. And then how do you ensure that they continue to trust you when it comes to the budget? Because obviously, you've made it pretty well known that you charge on a percentage, as many planners do. But
Right.
how do you manage the communication as the budget goes up and that the couples are trusting, obviously,
So
that you're
this
not
is-
taking advantage of them and
Right.
that type of thing?
So one of the things we say to them in our sales call is we say, we're going to ask you to set the budget. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be sure that that budget is realistic. And then we're going to essentially weight we're going to listen to what is important to you, and we're going to weight them in the budget. So if photography is everything, then you're going to put this in that, or if the wine is everything, or the entertainment. And so we'll create a budget for you. And we will stick to that budget to the T unless you tell us differently that you want to drive those numbers up. And sometimes things can happen. And the reality is we don't feel like we own those things that change, that are beyond our control. Not having knowledge about something is one thing, but having something that is beyond your control, is another. And we're dealing with a clientele that fortunately has some flexibility in their budget if something does happen. So I just think, I think being very upfront about it as things change. Anytime I think this is a really important thing. Anytime anything major changes, we send out an updated budget so that they can say, okay, so let's say they had $250,000 in budget for decor. And then I want lions and tigers and bears. And I'm saying to them, lions and tigers and bears are going to cost you another $200,000. They're like, oh, that's fine. That's fine. Well, before I sign on the dotted line for the extra lions and tigers and bears, I send them a new budget so they can see what their bottom line is going to be. Okay, now I'm cresting over $1.5 million. Are we comfortable with that? So, as long as they're informed and they're making the decisions, that's how I deal with it. Just incredibly straightforwardly. When they say, I want the lions and tigers, that's not in the budget. Okay, I want it anyway. Great. Let me put it in the budget and update it and send it to you and let you make the decision. So where planners trouble, I think, is that they're letting their clients make decisions and not updating scope as they go along, and then they get the big surprise and their whole world falls apart. And I also am very clear with all of my vendors, my vendor partners, that, and I am ferocious about this, and it makes me crazy, and I'm not telling you that it always works, but I say to whoever my vendor partners are, I have $250,000. This is what I want. Do not show me anything that is out with, that goes above that. And inevitably, they will show me something that is higher than that. And I said, take that. You told me you could do this event for $250,000. Figure out how to move something out and let them have the choice of whether they want to include it or not. And, it's so funny because just literally the last couple of days, I was working with a client, and we were working on a band contract, and the band contract, let's say, is $50,000. And then you add all of the things in, because you need the cocktail music and the ceremony music. And, I like early load in, and I need the hotel rooms, and I wanted a DJ, and then I wanted and so it gets to be, all of a sudden the price explodes. And so part of what our job to do is don't just callously, this is so important. Don't just callously throw it into the budget, into the thing, and just say, here, I put it as options, and I get on a call and I say, tell me what you want to include. We could go local with ceremony music. We could peel it back, and we could do a DJ without hybrid. Tell me what it is that's important to you, because that makes them feel like they're in control of the destiny of the budget. And I think that's really important. I mean, it's important for anybody, but definitely at the ultra luxury mark. There is if I've heard it once, I've heard it a million times, I just want to be sure no one's taking advantage of me. And
Got it.
I kind of laughingly say, everyone is paying an extraordinarily high price and you're included. So you are not being taken advantage of. But it is definitely, I mean, they live in a world where that happens to them. And I guard that for them. I mean, I am not a planner that goes to, people say, well, if I work with you, well, you know, we beat up all vendors and get the best pricing. And I say, I'm not that planner. There are other planners who will do that, but that's not me. I work with the very best in the country. They will deliver you 110%. They're worth every penny that they're charging. They all have the opportunity to work with on other jobs on the exact same day.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like Easton, you either decide you're comfortable with having the best and you don't negotiate their fees. But on the other hand, if somebody comes in with something that seems at all inappropriate, I will be the first one to very happily, I don't want to say pounce, but there might be a little bit of pouncing. I so trust my vendor partners not to do that. It happens so infrequently. And I suppose, you know, because I give all of our vendors, you know, a lot of big work, I do think we get really lovely pricing. And if not, it's not discounted. I'm getting more bang for the buck.
Yeah.
So that's how that works.
That. So when it comes to your vendor partners, many of them, like you said, will say that your clients are the loveliest, but we have many mutual friends, and they also say that your team are incredibly organized and that the communication between your team and the partners is top notch. So how do you prepare your creative partners for the wedding weekend? What kind of goes into that?
A lot of meetings, a lot of Zoom. So that's with internet that works typically. So we probably, for a big event, the big ones, we're probably meeting maybe even 8 weeks out, 6 weeks out, once a week with all of the key vendors, and somebody's always missing. And everyone has to come on Zoom. I mean, on video, you can't show up on a phone call. And we're going through, we have very detailed timelines. We're able to produce, our timelines are actually created in a database program. So we're able to do these very curated timelines. So if you're the caterer, you get exactly the catering timeline. Your transpo, you know, the install people, the tent, everybody gets a timeline curated for them. So it's pretty fast and efficient. We get on these calls and we go through all our diagrams, and we it works in a lot of ways. We're working with I would say with a fairly tight group of vendor partners, but sometimes there's, you know, I would say there's always, you know, probably every third time there's a few new people on the group. And so it's a great opportunity for everybody to get to know each other, so that when they walk on, you know, on site. The last time I had a job where I had two vendors who were not on the same page was probably 6 years ago. I mean, that's pretty amazing, right? I mean, so 6 years ago, we had something, and I could see that these two vendors were not talking to each other. And I brought everybody into the, you know, back of house tent, and we sat down and I was like, well, talk to me what's going on here, because this is not happening at an Easton event. So we're really able, we communicate a lot beforehand. We give everybody tons of paperwork. I mean, our paperwork is insane. You know, our maps are where our load in is. You know, we have little, you know, just to think of the details that we have when we go on site, we do these little tags that we put on the windshield. You know, what is that called? The windshield thingy? So that you write your name and your phone number, so that when you're in and you're parking in the wrong place, our logistics person can come up and call you. So everybody just knows how we do this. There are QR codes for every location. You know, we've done a QR code to the address so that all you have to do is take a picture of it and bam, you know exactly where we're going. You know, we're very thoughtful about our meals for everyone, where we go on site. You know, I haven't had anybody say they won't feed the team, because a lot of our events are really remote. And I'm like, I'm telling you, you're either going to pay for it one way or the other. You know, if you are not going to offer vendor meals, you'll pay for it because they're going to work longer hours, because you got to let them go off property. So let's just do vendor meals. So again, it's just part of that whole thing. we take really good care of them.
Got it. I love it. So you've been at this for a while. The industry has changed a lot in the last several years. So how do you see the changes?
There's definitely a huge emphasis on, on the way things look from how's it going to look on Insta, how's it going to look on social. I struggle with that a little bit, to be honest. That focus is one of the things I think I said when I'm not sure you heard me say when we lost internet was that one of the things I think is very interesting is that at the ultra luxury market, I don't think I've ever met a parent who has had anything like the wedding they are planning for their kids. That will change in the next generation, but we're in this interesting transitional time where every single billionaire client that we have had, even if they grew up with billions, had a simple, beautiful backyard wedding at their parents' house rather than all the bells and whistles. So that is clearly what's happening. Yeah. And, a little bit of this is being driven by planners because, it's like anything in life, we want, we're looking for bigger cars, better. It's the American way, I guess, everything is bigger and better and we're pushing our events. Oh, well, I've been doing this for 30 years. So when we first started, there were no, how about this? So long ago, kids, that in my day, we didn't have rental bars. We had cloth bars that we put up on PVC pipe because there were no rental bars 30 years ago. So we've come from every single bar being up on PVC to now it's like, really, we don't have a custom bar, and I thought very telling. I was at a wedding a few weeks ago and the mom said, all my friends are walking in this tent going, oh my God. And the kids are walking in going, oh yeah, this is pretty because this is the standard. So that's what's happening. That's the transition that's happened. In the last 30 years, we've gone from a pretty wedding was, a lovely typical wedding was a beautiful backyard wedding with lovely tablecloths and a bar on PVC to everything custom around it. And that's a lot of change. And it's a little bit of why I wanted to do the course, because there's not a lot of people. We are an unregulated, a little lawless industry, and we as an industry need to come together and be very proactive about standards and education. And this is my contribution to it. So.
I love that. Okay, I'm going to ask you one more question before we get questions from the audience. But what do you suggest for planners who've been in the industry for a while, maybe like 10 years in the lovely market, and they really want to level up to the luxury or the luxury? Or ultra luxury? Do you have any tips or tricks or advice for them?
I think the number one the most important pivot that I was able to make was working. I was working regionally, I was really very successful in my little community. And somebody said to me, well, what do you want? And I said, well, I really want to have a national reputation. And she was like, you're not doing a very good job of that. I was like, thank you. And she said, you need to start diversifying the vendors that you're working with. And it was such an aha moment for me. So I was working with, and they're still, and it's so funny because we cycled through it a little bit. I mean, I was working with local vendors and all of a sudden I was like, oh, you mean I work with somebody who's from California? And so that's really literally what happened. And if you've heard me speak, I always credit Jose Villa for being that helped me flip that switch when I had a bride who was looking at a fantastic band, and sorry for all my entertainment companies that I love, and Jose Villa. And I said, you know what, you're going to have the music will be fabulous either way, but Jose Villa will give you pictures that will last, which is so fabulous. And we looked at Jose Villa, pre-pitched it to Martha Stewart, which you could do in print those days. And I got 8 pages of Martha Stewart. And that's what changed my career. So the first thing is, if you're working regionally, you need to work outside your region. And the first time somebody said to me, oh, I wish I could have, a sister was getting married. I'd already done the first daughter's wedding. And she said, oh, I wish you could do my wedding in Jackson Hole, but I'm going to work with a local planner. I said, I will meet the price of the local planner in Jackson Hole, and I will pay all the expenses for my team. And
Wow.
that's what I did. And that's how I got my first destination gig. So thinking creatively about how to get work outside your area is what it's all about. And even if you have to call, whether it's, find some way to get into some network. I'm a big fan of Engage summits where you can, you're standing there, you're talking to a photographer, she or he lives in Portland, you live in Florida, and you say, listen, I'm dying to work on the West Coast. Next time you find somebody who needs a planner, tell me, and I will pay all my expenses to come and do that wedding in Portland. And that's such a major, so that I think is the most important one. That, and do charity events, because that is where, you can get in front of a lot of fabulous people. And that's another way I got my start. I did, and I didn't do it obviously I did not do it intentionally. I just wasn't working. And so I had a love of events, and I was, I did the SPCA and I did the Boys and Girls Club, and I just started chairing, galas. And, but think about how many people saw my work who were affluent because they were at the gala. So that I thought it's a win-win. Good for the charity, good for you.
I love it. I love it. That is great advice. Okay, we have a lot of questions, so we're going to try to get through some of these. So Katie asks, was there ever a time where you felt burnout, and what did you do, or what happened that you were able to get through it?
I did. I actually almost quit about 10 years in. I actually went to a business coach and tried to quit. I didn't, because I just felt like I was, I hate to say, I felt like I was too far in. So I pushed through it. Where you will, getting to ultra luxury is what helps prevent burnout, because you do less events. I mean, I hate to say it, but if you do 20 events a year, or I'm talking to some, planners, and they're doing 30 events a year, it's just such a tough recipe. So not that everybody can do it, but I do think that, and if you have no possibility for whatever reason of going to a higher market, and you're staying in luxury, and you have to do 20 weddings a year, then the answer is you've got to be able to control essentially the client's behavior. And there's a whole module in the course about how we work with our clients, how we, I never let anyone text me after hours or on the weekends.
I love that.
And somebody, and including my peers, are like, well, I don't know how you do that. I'm like, I just say, I have a very happy little family life, and my family and honestly, God, I'm probably working most of the weekends, but, so it can be done. So that will really help burnout. So making the job so if you, for whatever reason, you're in a community, I love my life, I don't want to get on the road, I don't want to travel, I have to do 20 weddings a year. How do you help prevent burnout? You reduce the scope of what you're doing. And you do not have clients have access to you anything other than your work hours. That's so important, because, and I never let them text me, period, because I can't check threads. It takes it from being friendly. You're not hiring your friend, you're hiring me. I am an incredible event planner. I will be your friend possibly afterwards, but that's not what you're hiring me to do. So controlling what you can control. And somebody said to me, well, I was working with a photographer, and they wouldn't, and I'm like, and you're still working with them? So we can control this destiny. You control who your vendors are. So anyway, this is an area that I think is going to be really fun to explore in the course, but I do think we have not done a job as an industry of controlling that part of the dialogue.
Got it. Okay. We're getting a lot of questions about your team. So like, how many planners work on each event? How do you break down or assign specific production setup, client-facing roles?
Okay. So we go out with probably 8 to 10 people, prefer 10. And we have someone, so we have the lead and the second lead. And then we have somebody whose sole job is to be with the bridal party and manage that whole relationship. Somebody whose job is to deal with the groom, somebody who does transportation, someone who does catering, thank you, and entertainment. You're good at this. And there are 3 left. So maybe floaters. The other 3 are probably floaters. Yeah, that's 10. So actually what we're missing 1 if we were 8. So essentially everybody's got a job that they do and they're really, really good at the job. And we're lucky enough that we go to really amazing places. And so as we say, no ultra luxury wedding ever happens in a bad place. So we've got an incredible team, highly seasoned people who have been in the business for 25 years, directors of catering who have done millions of weddings is my catering person. My entertainment person is, they sing, they've been in bands, they know everything about audio, the AV. So having people who really are good at what they do helps with with burnout, because you walk to these events and everybody knows what they're doing. So we have 6 on our team, and on our team we have me and Dawson, who is basically our director of events, and then we have 2 other planners, so that makes the 4 of us, and then we have 2-3 support. So we have 1 person who just does logistics, essentially. Lauren gets me to places and all that kind of good stuff. So we're always interested in hiring if anybody wants to move to Charleston, and we're always interested in hiring at basically every level. So most genuinely, if anybody, sorry about this, I hijacked your call, but anybody, Ethan at EastonEvents.com, we're always looking to hire people.
I love it. Do you think, we have another question, do you think that planning firms that offer different levels of service hinders the ultra luxury client from reaching out or trusting them with like a full scale luxury event?
1,000%, 100%. I mean, if you want, even if you offered it, you could offer it quietly. But the ultra, you can only sell ultra luxury. It's like photographers who offer, charge gobs and gobs of money, and they like offer an 8-hour package. I'm like, what ultra luxury client ever wanted 8 hours? Just do it and charge for 10 hours. So I do think on your website, and sorry to keep harking back to the course, but one of the things that we're going to do is what's something called the profitable portfolio, where we actually go look at at 3 different students' websites and their Instagram, and then we sort of, they volunteer, but we go through them and say, this is what doesn't work. This is what you shouldn't have. Somebody said, they had I won an accolade for a wedding, $75,000 and under in 2018. And I'm like, that's got to come down. So just the way you present yourself, your branding, all of those things are really important. But yes, the answer is do not offer. I believe that if you want the ultra luxury consumer, you should not be offering packages. One-stop shop, full service, full tilt.
Interesting. How do you handle internal team communication? Is it like email or Slack, or how do you control that?
Lots of shouting. So I could give you a lot of it's a lot of literally just communication, just verbal communication, I hate to say, but we would do it through Basecamp. It's the project management software that we use. I kind of would love to use Slack, but we just have, I do really like Basecamp, where we're assigning tasks to each other, and that's sort of how we keep everything straight. And then a lot of emails, and I would say, Boomerang and now Snooze on my Gmail is my new best friend. So we're, sort of almost everything that we have go out gets a little calendar. So we know it's getting there. We're all really busy.
Gotcha. I want to be mindful of time. Do you have time for a couple more questions?
I do. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Somebody asks, do you pay all of the vendors, or do your clients pay them directly?
I used to pay all the vendors, and that was so much easier because We didn't have to wait for them or process it through their family office. But my insurance company told me that even though I have everybody sign additionally insured, and even though my clients sign all the contracts, that the fact that I have paid the vendor directly keeps me, from a liability point of view, in the loop. And that I don't want. So that's why we do not, that's why we do not pay our, but we used to, we changed maybe about 7 years ago. And now all of our clients, but we've got what we call our checklist, and it's sort of lovely looking Excel spreadsheet, Google sheet there. We're really good about keeping all the deposits. So it's not like what we're expecting them to remember anything. We are hand holding them through that whole process. Here are the bills that need to be paid. Here are the exact deposits. Here's the, it's not like go look at the contract and send the money. It's like, here's the contract. Here's the vendor. Here's the amount that needs to go. Here's where it needs to go. So, I think a good analogy is, I'm interested to see how you feel about this, but when somebody sends me somebody, even in the office, they're like, okay, let's do party props. Would you send me 6 different Western party props suggestions? And if they were to send me a link which says, the wands and then hats, I would be so mad, because what they didn't do is they didn't screen grab a picture of the wand or the hat or the hoop or whatever and hyperlink that picture, and put the price next to it, because you're actually thinking that I am going to click on each of these things and look at them. Like, that is a hard no. So that's how I treat our clients. So where I would even take it to the client is that we do so much in the Google Suite. So I'm like a huge fan of Google Slides. So everything has got, you can't make a decision. Do you want this pillow or this pillow? You need to see the 2 pillows next to each other. So we go into Slides, we screen grab the picture, we put the picture up, we hyperlink it, we put the price, and now the client's going through the slide deck and oh, I want the pillow on the right. Not to go back and push but to me, that is the essence of ultra luxury. Oh, send a voicemail. There you go. This is sorry. So that just having that level. Does that resonate for you? Is this am I crazy to say this?
No, it makes total sense. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So my team members no longer do that.
Can you talk about your post-wedding recap with the client? Like, do you do one? What do you ask? Do you ask for a review? What do you talk about?
We don't do it. We don't do it because here's what we do. We have an email address that's called thingstododifferently@eastonevents.com. Everybody's got it on their phone. During the event, we ask everyone to literally, as they see things, to type in so that, we've got a shortcut.
I love that idea.
And we write what we should have done differently. And the reason is because our clients are so happy. If we're having a recap, it's over the pictures and we're just loving on life and loving on each other. Yeah. But we don't have clients that are like, God, I really, if somebody were unhappy about it, of course we would, but we typically have, 99% of the time we have very happy clients. So to me, and my whole way of thinking about how we operate is that I don't honestly almost care if the client's happy, because the client is always happy. That's what we do. Our clients are always happy. What we care about is, did we do a good job? What did we learn? How could we make it happier for us? A little bit about that burnout thing. Like, don't ever make the same mistake twice, because that's painful and it just hurts you. So this things to do differently. We have a high touch list, which we're sharing, which is, 3 pages long, that's broken down in between, like, what are the things that you need to do when you're on your site visit? What do you need to do when you're on your second site visit? What are the things you need to do as you load in? What do you need to do right before the event? What is it that you need to do after the event? So like, we have all these checklists so that when we're, rolling in, it just reduces the stress, because Like, we're just like, okay, did we do that? I mean, I do not, listen, wedding planning is not rocket science. We are, it's a process. Dot your I's, cross your T's, be sure your systems are impeccable, and you will have less burnout.
Love it.
That's
I
my
love it.
motto. I'm looking to it.
Okay, a couple questions about your course. One, is it only for planners? And two, how much is it?
It's $5,000 and it is only for planners. And I will do, I've had a lot of interest from photographers, and we decided that the next course is going to be for photographers because that seems to be such a natural, and there is a lot that anyone could learn in any industry, I think. But it just in terms of the investment of $5,000, which is a lot of money, I do think that this was designed really not only with just planners in mind, but also for the luxury planner in mind. So it's somebody who's already achieved, success in their market and is ready to take it to the next level. So it really is a very targeted, and just, when you go on to eastonapproach.com, you can circle down with different payment plans that are there, because we recognize that $5,000 is a lot. So we try to make it as gentle as possible. So no to other people for now. Photography is coming up next.
Okay, great. Perfect. Okay, one last question, and this is one of my own because I love horror stories. Do you have any wild horror stories or something that's gone wrong at one of your events you could share with us?
Wasn't that terrible? I would say, I guess, and I believe that luck has a good part to do with it. But like, for an example, something that could have gone wrong that didn't go wrong was because we were proactive. So and things could happen, like people, your bride could, I've had bridesmaids faint, but I've never had a bride faint. So all the things that you're really completely uncontrollable. Oh, I do have a horror story. Oh, don't let me forget I won't say where it is, but the Dallas story. But before I say that, we had a wedding in Maine, and we had this fantastic ceremony that was planned, that was on a tennis court, and then we floored the tennis court, and we trellised the walls, and then we floraled the walls, and then we did a pergola, and then we did hand painted ceiling, and it was so beautiful. And we had the Hurricane Dorian coming up the East Coast. And I went to Mom and I said, I know this is crazy. This was on Thursday. It was on Thursday. It was on Thursday. And I went to the mom and I said, I know this is crazy, but I'm going to suggest that we move the ceremony up by an entire day. And she was like, that's ridiculous. There's no way you can get 350 people moved. There's no way we're going to get your 86 vendors moved. You're crazy, Lynn. Love you. But get out of here. So off I went, and 2 hours later she came over. She's like, oh my God, that's absolutely genius. And we did move up the wedding by 24 hours, and all of the clients, all the guests, and all the vendors. And that was a disaster coming right at me. And we pivoted to make it a huge success. So that's, I think, is how we kind of think about things. But the story that I was going to, the worst thing that I think it's the worst thing that's ever happened to me. It was we were out west, and we were at a venue that the catering hubs out of there are 6, it's in a city, 6 different locations that hub out of one catering, the food comes out of one place. And I'm sitting there, and the entree is coming out, and I had learned along my journey that I don't go stomping into the catering kitchen. I used to, but I don't anymore. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching and the entrees are coming out. And, oh, it's so good. It's coming out. And then it's not coming out so fast. And then it stops, and I'm halfway through the service, and I peek in, and literally the chef has got tears running down their face. And I'm like, oh my God. And I walked in, and he said, I have no words, but his, sous chef miscounted the chicken and they only prepped half of the entree. So I had 100 people without an entree. So I'm on a walkie-talkie and I turn to the team and I say, I need coupons to the Ritz-Carlton in the next 4 minutes. And so somebody called the Ritz-Carlton, said, we're going to send 100 people over for dinner at some point during the evening. I'm going to give you a credit card. Are you okay doing that? And I went up to the dad and I said, never before has this happened to me. Here's how I'm going to solve the problem. And I personally went up to every single 100 person up there and told them what our plan was. And I said, well, we're coming by, please. Unfortunately, we were lucky that it already had a starter. So, whatever. I mean, they're drinking. They were, it honestly, it was all survivable. But again, I was proactive and immediately proactive with some solution, because I didn't have many solutions because I couldn't make any more chicken, because the chicken wasn't in the building. But that was probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me. Well, you help me remember that story because it's a good story.
Oh my gosh, that is wild. And what a creative way to deal with it. So kudos to you. Well, I'm sorry for everyone, the questions that we didn't get to. Lynn, I so appreciate you taking the time to meet with us. You are so lovely. And I've been a very big fan for a long time. So it's been a pleasure to chat with you in person. And I am excited to kind of watch all of the things that you put on in the future. And I hope that your course is insanely successful. It sounds like an incredible opportunity. So everyone that's watching, please follow Lynn at Easton Events, and us as well. We're at Rock, Paper, Coin. So thanks again, Lynn, and thank you to everyone that joined us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. And sorry about my internet glitch, but I thought I'd get back. Thank you.
No worries at all. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Bye, everyone. Bye.